Welcome to the Emily Carr painting lesson. Today I've chosen to do one of Emily Carr's totem poles in nature. Emily Carr lived between 1871 and 1945, and she was inspired by landscapes of the Pacific Northwest. She was born in British Columbia. And from her art, you can see that she was also influenced by French postmodernism and was often associated with the Group of Seven here in Canada. She's a Canadian artist. So today I'm going to talk you through painting one of her paintings as quickly as possible. What you're going to need is acrylic paint. And I've just got a set of a few colours over there. And we're going to start off with the brown and a thin brush to outline the painting. So what I normally do is I just dab my brush into the tube. Let's have a look here. We've got 3 totem poles, so I'm just going to do 3 poles to start off with. I'm using an 8x10 canvas size, and remember, it doesn't have to be exactly like Emily Carr's painting. What we're doing is we're just doing an impression. And I'm going to dip into the brown again because my brown's run out. As you can see, there's faces on this. A couple of faces here and there. So I'm going to just do a few faces starting from the bottom. Nose, profile, bit of a hat. Emily Carr used to love to go off and just paint totem poles in nature. So there we go. Wings on the side, there's usually different forms, and one more head at the top. I'm going to hold this so that I have it readily available. You can also put it on your palette. Then the second one has a few lines and then a face. I start with a line and then an eye, the nose, mouth, and this guy seems to be holding some panels. And it doesn't matter if you don't have time or space to do all of them. And you can make it your own as well. Another face at the top. There's a few figures right at the top of this totem. So we're just sketching out this drawing. There's a few more difficult forms, but I'm just going to use some shapes to give the illusion of the totem pole. Okay. And then at the bottom there's the top of a house, roof, and that's just like a rectangle. Or maybe it's a barn because there's a door open. Some panels. So instead of using a pencil, but you can also use a pencil, I'm using the paintbrush and the paint to show you the bushes. And then the trees in the distance. I'll come back to the trees with the blue. So I'm going to wash my brush. And you can see just the basic structure. And now I'm going to use some blue and I'm going to do the trees in the background and fill in some of the blues at the bottom here. I'll go for the lighter blue. It's a cerulean blue. And here I'm going to use my palette and just go ahead and put the blue on the palette. I'm using the same brush. Make sure you have a paper towel around to clean your brush. And then I'm going to just outline the trees in the distance. There's a little one there. And as I said, it doesn't have to be exactly the same. Another tree there. It's easier to do a line down, vertical line, and then some horizontal lines across to make the tree. And then another couple here. And one more tree on this side. We'll come back with a darker blue to just give these trees a bit of definition. Using the same blue, and if you have some left on your palette, but you can add some. I'm going to the bottom where the grass is and just bringing up some lines. And it's good if your paint kind of gets drier towards the top and there's a little bit of paint on your brush, because then it gives those really light lines. On this side as well. And there's a few bushes around here and there. And around the totem pole. And on the top here. Okay. So now there's a bit of yellowy green in between, and I'm going to just mix a bit of yellow and green. Emily Carr was also a writer, so she's written lots of books as well. And she went to France and to the UK, to England, to study. So she was influenced by people in Europe. Now that's too green, so I'm going to add a little bit of yellow, sorry. And as you can see, I'm just going to go and just mix it in and blend it in. Not getting too close to the blue, because I don't want to change the color of the blue. Just a few. It's really incredible how she mixed her colours and how vibrant the paintings still look. A bit of yellow on this side, and on top of the barn or roof. And it's okay if some of your brown mixes in too. Okay, there's a bit of browny yellow on the side there, so I'm just going to go ahead and put that on the palette. The good thing about this painting is you can make it your own. And actually that's what Emily Carr did say. She said, nature is a great, and I'm just paraphrasing here, nature is a good place to start, but you make it your own when you take it and you make your own style. So even though we're looking at Emily Carr's work and we're trying to recreate what she's done, we're also making it our own, because we're all artists. And so I've used a bit of brown here, and we want some of ourselves and our own interpretation in the painting. So whatever brown I have left over, I'm just going to squiggle around here. And around there. And some blue. So now you can see the painting has got a lot of the colours that are mixing together, and that's how I think she did it as well. She kind of blended in whatever was on her palette. So you can see what I'm doing with the brown in the yellow green there. She was using her colours on her palette. She was being economical and efficient with it, because she was all the way, sometimes out where they weren't, you know, I mean, shops back then, there weren't too many shops that had paints everywhere. So she had to be conservative. And that's a good lesson for us too, to kind of make sure that we're not wasting our paints, or anything really. So I'm using some of the dark green to just go in there. And so the totem poles have a bit of a hue of purple. So I'm going to mix some white, blue and red to make that purple. So generous with your white. A little bit of red. And even less blue. I'm using the darker blue, the ultramarine on the side. Okay, so I start with the white and the red. And then I'll take a really small dab at the blue. Very tiny. I don't want to make it too blue, because once it's too blue I can't go back. I'd have to mix it all over again. And keep mixing it. Getting all the colours nicely blended. Okay, So now I'm going to put the details in, the totem pole, or just do a wash first, add a bit of water. Go around my sketch. Using the side of my brush. Just going around and sketching and just doing a very light purple. It's not too, letting the white of the canvas peer through as well. And this is a nice mid-tone that she has in amongst these really bright colours that I think really brings the painting together. So there's a bit of, as you can see, she probably had a bit of extra paint, mixed it around and then just swirled it around. That's a bit redder than I wanted it to be, but that's okay. Swirled it around. I'm going to add some cerulean blue to bring in, to fill in the gaps where the trees were. And a little bit of ultramarine blue to add some shadows and contrast. I'm still using this small brush because I think it works perfectly for this size of painting. There you go. I'm using some of the lines. I'll go with a bit of the purple. Some of the lines. Oops. So what I'm doing is that I'm starting at the bottom and then I'm pulling it over like that. Dragging it. I don't want to overwork this painting, but I will take some dark, some ultramarine, and then just try and outline, not all of it, but some of the totem pole. Some eyes, lines here and there. Add some of this blue here, that's there. So when you look at the painting now, it's kind of, you have to really look into it to see what it is. You can see the totem poles, but to see the trees and the shrubbery and it's all kind of, and that's where post-modern French painting technique comes in. Kind of like Gauguin. And this is where you have your own, you can start taking parts of your palette and just blending it in. This is a bit whiter there, so I'm going to add a bit of white to it. Put it on my palette first. And just to lift up and make everything stand out. I'm going to add some white here and there to highlight. It's probably best to do this when the painting is completely dry, so it doesn't blend in too much. And then I'll do a bit of sky in the background with my light blue. I'll do some swirling skies. And lastly, don't forget, well, the painting's never really finished, so you can continue. I'm going to add some green at the top there. Don't forget to sign it. So I'm going to put my initials. There you go. It's Emily Carr.